Is it acid reflux or is it a heart attack? It could go either way. Alright y'all, she's back. It's been a while. I went back and looked to see when the last time I posted was, and it's been about 3 months, but we'll actually see how long it'll be once I edit this and actually put it out because I work slow. If you can't tell, I'm recording this in October, so if this ends up going up after, we'll be off theme, but that's besides the point. I don't have a theme on this channel at this point. It's more of like a diary entry, if anything. If it helps someone, that's like the best case scenario, but like I am not an influencer. That is not like the goal in life, but I am a creative person, so I have spurts of energy of wanting to do this type of medium versus blog posts versus painting and drawing or photography or whatever it may be. So I've just kind of gotten to the point where I'm not going to be so hard on myself if I'm not overly consistent, even though I would love to be consistent at like one specific thing, but it's just not how I roll. Like I have phases, like I'm sure I've mentioned in past videos, and yeah, I mean, like, it would be nice to have at least a video a month, I guess. That'll give me plenty of time for editing and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to give kind of a random update of life, just what's going on, what's happened, to some extent. Since the last time I posted, things have kind of just blew up, kind of unexpectedly but expectedly. Had to reevaluate some things, and it's been a minute. It's been a interesting period of time. So one of the major reasons I had kind of a pause to uploading and doing any videos, I was let go from that job. And I did sign some things, so we'll leave it at that. But what was really interesting about that was, along with kind of the videos I had made that kind of talked about how I was feeling, just even before any of that, I had been pretty consistent for a minute, which I fell off of that too, was journaling. And I so strangely remember journaling right before it happened, that like I knew it was gonna happen. This journal, I actually really enjoyed it. I need to get back to it, but right after that I kind of fell off a little bit because honestly it was a little bit too much of manifestation, if you will. Like I was like, maybe I need to be a little bit more careful about what I say. Yeah, so I literally had wrote, I'm actually anxious about losing my job. It's like I can feel it coming and I'm panicking. Yeah, that's like quite literally what those last couple weeks was. And then I also wrote, job security is really scary right now, especially. I mean, you just hear about layoffs one way or the other, and not a great time for jobs, like to lose a job and whatnot. It was still not great to lose a job. And then in another side, like, there was a sense of relief. The next like couple days was a little weird because I was just like, what what do I do now? Ever since I started working, I never not worked. And you know, once you have a job there, unless you're a teacher, which ultimately like they deserve a summer vacation, but most corporate type jobs, like you don't have a summer vacation, you have PTO if you use it, which I definitely use all my PTOs. I never just had time off, and it was kind of like, oh my god, I don't have to do anything or like think about going back. clearly to some extent I was like manifesting it to happen because I just needed a beat. It wasn't like specific to this job. It had been like the job I had previous. It just felt like I just kept hitting a wall and I just needed a breather. The only real concern I had was finances because it is tough times right now in general. Everything is more expensive these days. So there was clearly like a need to figure out something like sooner than later. And I had these 2 big trips planned that I was super excited for. I wanted to make sure that I could financially still go on those trips and live my day-to-day. So that part was definitely on my mind, but I also was like, this is the first time in forever you haven't had to think about work and what you have to do to be successful. And I don't know about you, but work life takes up so much of my energy. And it's not even like the only thing in my life, but just doing it 5 days a week, 8, sometimes 8+ hours a day, it's draining. And like I don't have a whole lot of energy at the end of the day, and then I spend my weekends recouping my energy. So it's like this endless cycle. So it was just nice to have a break from the endless cycle for a change. I really enjoyed my time off. I just felt like I had this instant hit of like creative juices. I had started a blog years ago that was mainly like food reviews and like cooking and random, like honestly just as random as this YouTube channel is, like some movie and TV stuff, some cooking stuff. It was a little bit of everything, but I like went in on it. Within like a couple days I had like dozens of food review posts that I had written, and it was just like, whoa, like I have this all in me, but I just don't have the like time or energy after a long ass work day to do anything. And it was like I knocked it out so quickly that I was like, wait a second, like how do I do this when I do have other commitments and priorities? But I just was like, okay, well, here it is, here's the time. I have the energy, and I just like did all the things that I thought about and wanted to do, and I did it. So I wrote a bunch of blogs. Honestly, like I just recently ran out of those posts that I did a few months ago. So now I'm like, I need to get those juices back to write some more. And I like got all these ideas for paintings that I want to do, which I still haven't painted because I get in my own head about it sometimes, which is like a whole other thing. But I do take art classes every now and then, and it's been a few semesters since I've taken one, so I signed up for a painting class for the next semester, which I'm hoping will get me to be more comfortable with the painting for the ideas that I have. It's not just ideas in my head, but I'm actually writing them down. I had an idea for like a children's book series based off of the infamous Bruce, my dog, because he's the best and he's so silly. And I mean, honestly, he would be the best children's book character ever. I wrote like a first draft of a first book, if you will. But I was like, it would be such a cute series idea, and I would love to eventually be able to like put art to it. Hey. It was just like such a nice few months. I would go to like a coffee shop or Barnes & Noble and just do creative stuff or read. It was so nice. And sometimes I went to coffee shops like with a friend, and it was just a great time. Honestly, I highly recommend everybody in their adulthood to just have a couple months off of everything. Just like a freaking full month Like not just like a couple days here and there, but like a full ass month. If you can afford to do more, go for it. Truly like not having any agenda, right? Because usually with my PTO time, I'm planning a vacation and I'm traveling and I'm going somewhere, which is something I love to do, but it's also like you're going and you're doing this thing that all of your energy is put there and you're not really recalibrating your own mental, which I think is like super, super important and is really what I got out of this situation, whether it was, you know, deliberate or not. Even though I was really enjoying this time, I was also looking for jobs. I wasn't not looking for jobs. I had a few interviews, and honestly, like, interviewing is a full-time job in and of itself. Like, it is so rough. It is not fun either. It's so hard because, like, you're trying to sell yourself to them, but then it really got to the point where I was like, y'all are not helping the situation. Like, I don't want to work here. I remember talking to my friend. I mean, some of these interviews are going decent, but like, I don't want this job. Like, I don't want to go there. There was one that I did where in my application process, I had applied to 2 separate roles at the same company, and I had done a interview for the one position, and it went fine. Like, it wasn't amazing, it wasn't terrible, it was like pretty okay. And then like literally days later, they never said anything about that role, but then they called me to interview for the other role that I had apparently applied for as well. And I was just like, hey, these roles are pretty similar. Like, are they for the same team? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, so am I interviewing with the same people? Yes, but it's a different role. But it's a similar role for the same team, and I would be interviewing with the same people. So, like, what is the difference? Because they've already interviewed me. And, like, the roles and responsibilities are not drastically different. So, like, if they couldn't make a decision then, why am I, like, why? So I was just like, no thank you. And it's just kind of unnecessary, all of the hoops that you have to go through these days to get a job. And it's competitive because there's so many people who are looking for a job. It's just such a strange experience. And I really, truly wish everyone luck who's in the process, because it is brutal. And you can apply and apply and apply and like barely ever hear back. And then the few times you do hear back, it's like that. I've definitely done rounds where there was like 5 to 8 interviews, and it's just so grueling. I did a little bit of that, but I was still kind of keeping my head up because I was enjoying this time of creative juices flowing and just like re-establishing my mental. Because all these interviews were not working out, my first trip that I had planned was coming up, and my first trip was to go to France with a friend that I worked with before, and then my second trip was a few months later to Italy with my cousin. And I was like, well, if I don't find a job and I'm already in France and I'm gonna go to Italy, might as well stay in Europe for a few months. So I was like hardcore like researching where I could go in between these trips and how much it would cost, and like it was pretty expensive, but also I was ready to do it. I was like, let's go. When am I ever gonna get time like this to just travel? And yeah, I was like super serious about doing it. I have so many itineraries of like paths to take in my like Google Sheets of like where I was planning to go and how long I was going to stay in each place, and like train tickets and hostels and hotels. Like, I had it all planned out. But then I had a friend who had found out that I was unemployed and called me that she knew of a role that was opening up. And honestly, I was like very hesitant because it was with the company I had been with before, and I just was like, I don't know. I don't know that I want to go back. But I think sometimes people and the world just know where you should be, and she really wasn't asking as a question. She like set it in motion, and it just kind of worked out. And it was even better because I literally was like, hey, I'm about to go on vacation. Like, I already had this planned. So, like, I can start before, but I'm going to be immediately going. And they were kind enough to let me go on the trip and then start right afterwards. That worked out perfectly. And I was backfilling for somebody. And she came back right before my next trip, so like the timing just aligned, and it's just like, it's been like a really good experience so far. I've told a few friends this is the first time in a long time where I've just felt work is work and it's good. Like, I like the people I'm working with. The work itself is cool. It's stuff that I know, but it's also interesting. Not crazy, but also like, you know, highs and lows of corporate work. So for the first time in like many years, the work side of life is actually pretty good. Plenty of other places in life that I need to still figure out, but that side of the house, I'm in a good place, and I'm finally like, wow, this is where all of this was meant to be. So I went on my first trip, which was to France, and it was amazing. If you watched my previous video, you'll know that like Paris is my ultimate. This would be the third time I've been to Paris, and I think I did like 3-ish days in Paris, and like every other time, it was a complete dream. Paris, France is like a hate it or love it situation, and boo you if you hate it. Like, truly, I don't understand. I love it. It was wonderful. Paris is the only place I had been to in France before, and I had went with a friend who has family from France, so her family is from Marseille, and so we went there for about a week, which was also so lovely. Her family was so sweet. They took us around to different parts of like the south of France. We went to one of the lavender fields in the south of France, and a few other like cities that I truly would never have known to go check out, but it was so gorgeous and it was so beautiful and just like so relaxing, to be honest. I will say this is the first time that I've gone to France when it was the summer. We went at the end of August and it was so hot. Paris was like hot but bearable. Marseille was like too hot. The previous times that I've gone to Paris was like November, December, and it was cold, but not unbearably cold, and I am somebody who prefers to be cold than hot, because I would rather just like layer on all the jackets than be melting in the sun. So that was the only downside to that trip. Everything else was fantastic. So I'm so glad that like I got that mental break, got to go to France, then I started the job, and like I said, everything there was great. And then just a couple weeks ago, I went to Italy with my cousin, and that kind of rounds out my big trips of this year, which, as much of a roller coaster as this year has been, I've gotten to do 3 really big trips, and usually I do like one big trip. I started the year in Portugal, then there was France, and then I just did Italy, and that was great too. We did Rome, which also from my previous video you'll see that I had gone there before, and it was so lovely. There's so much to do, and we had a great time there. And then we did just a couple days up in Tuscany, and we went to a resort, so we just stayed at the resort, which was kind of expensive, so It's really, we were just soaking up our time there. I would totally love to like explore more of Tuscany. Definitely would want to go to Florence. It was a great way to like end off my trips for the year. I'm pretty sure I'm done, aside from maybe visiting my family for Thanksgiving. It'll just be chill for the rest of this year. So that's kind of like the major stuff that was happening. So it was a little bit of like chaos, recovery, traveling, getting back into the groove of things. Oh, actually, health update. I've been very bad at it. No beating around the bush there. I'm so bad at it. I need to do better at just like eating healthier, being healthier and active. It was right after the France trip that I came back home and I just felt like terrible. And I was like, maybe it's like the heat exhaustion, because like I said, it was freaking hot while we were there. And I was like, I don't know, maybe it's that. And I don't know if it was like the food we ate there or the food I was eating once I got back. Like, I don't know what it was, but I was like, I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. I felt so bad. And I was like, this is weird. So I took myself to the ER, as you do when you feel like you're about to have a heart attack. And what a dumb idea that was. Honestly. So stupid. It was such a like, I've never gone to the ER. Like I've gone to like the urgent care situation before, but it was just like this feeling that just like wouldn't go away. So and I have like previous heart history, so I was like, I feel like I should just go. 3 hours later of like poking and prodding and whatever, it's just acid reflux. I have a ridiculous bill from the ER now for them ultimately giving me like an aspirin or an Advil. Not to say that if you think you're about to have a heart attack, not to go to the ER, because like not everybody is as stupid as me. But you know, if you have acid reflux, maybe double think. Diet and food and stuff is not my pro. I just like to eat, and I don't like to exercise. It's the unfortunate truth. It's getting a little cooler where I'm at. The beginning of the week was wonderful. I went out on like a bunch of walks because it was so nice out, and like today was muggy and disgusting. So I haven't moved today, but if the weather goes back to how it was earlier this week, I'd be happy to go outside and walk. What else? I've gotten back into a reading groove recently. I feel like I read a couple books. I think the first one I read was The People You Meet on Vacation, the Emily Henry book. She has like the colorful books. It was cute. Didn't love it or hate it. It was a quick read. It did take me a little bit to get into it, but then it was pretty quick to get through. I found, because I had lost it at some point, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I finished that, which it was good. I have this problem of waiting too long to read or watch something, and then I hear all this hype about it, how amazing it is, and then I get to it and it's a bit of a letdown. So I had started it like when I first heard about the book, and then I lost it for a very long time, and I had kept hearing about it and kept hearing about it, that by the time I got back to it, it was like, oh, okay. It was good. It's also a very quick read. Then I just finished, now that we've entered into spooky season, not super spooky at all, but it was called The X-Hex, which all of these books I am finding via TikTok, of course. And that was a cute little like rom-com with witches, but it was cute. And now I'm reading The Cruel Prince. The Cruel Prince. which I just started, and reading with a friend. And yeah, I also saw this on the TikTok and was like, oh, that sounds like a good one to read during spooky season. So far, it reminds me of A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court, Rose and Thorns, you know, the series, but there's like 4 or 5 of them in the series. Yeah, kind of reminds me of that right now, but we'll see. It's a good read so far. A little bit more on the magical side. It's not like witchy magic, it's like fairies and whatnots. So a lot more of the, like the A Court of Thorns, Rose and Thorns? You know, the orange book. I've also been reading like a page a day of the Pivot Year, which is by Brianna Weist, who wrote The Mountain Is You, which I started that as well, but kind of have taken a break from that for a minute. But I like this one because it's like a daily, literally like each day there's like a tiny little thing for you to read, which is just like a nice way to like start the day, to read like a little passage, and it's kind of just like motivational. So I've been reading that as well. I've been all up in the spooky cozy reading season. Let me know if there's any other books on your recommendation list, because aside from this, I have one more spooky book that I picked up, which I'm pretty sure is more cutesy witch book, not spooky in any way. Not that I think this is going to be spooky either. And it's the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, another booktok recommendation. Yeah, so I'll be reading that after this. And then, truly, with the pace that I read at, it'll be well after October, so just let me know if you have any book recommendations. Doesn't have to be spooky at all, doesn't have to be witchy at all. Preferably something light and cute, because I'm pretty sure I like saw it on a TikTok or like a video where it was like, you know, like if you don't get into a book, it's not you. Just like if you don't like a movie, like if you're not into the book, it's just not for you. It doesn't mean like that you're stupid or that you're not good at reading. There's been plenty of books where I'm like, why can't I read this? And I've finally gotten to the point where it's like, oh, because I don't like this kind of reading. Like, I really wanted to like read self-help type books, right? Like things that are like teaching you something or you're learning something. To be honest, I don't read those well. Like I get bored and I lose interest and it's too dense for me. So for me, I just want to read like lighthearted, fun, exciting, cozy books. I can listen to like a podcast that's serious when I like go for a walk or something, but like reading heavy text is not my cup of tea. So I think it's also a level of just finding what floats your boat. It's not that you're bad at something, sometimes you just need to find the right thing for you. Every October I love to just watch all the nostalgic spooky movies, but not really spooky, truly just like dcom movies. And this morning I actually watched Casper, which I love. Also realized that I have a terrible memory. Like, I've watched this movie several times, probably watched it last year, and I completely forgot the whole beginning of the movie. Like, I totally forgot the whole premise of like why they end up to the house. I don't know how, but I did. So it was wonderful as always. I think it's such a cute, sweet, like nostalgic movie. Love me some Christina Ricci. You guys remember there was also like an animated, I think it was a show, and he's such a cute little ghost. For whatever reason, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I made this up, but there was definitely a cartoon version of him in a show. or a movie. I don't know. But if that is in any streaming service, let me know because I'd be down to watch that. And then here in my neighborhood, people go all out for Halloween. Like the houses are all decorated, like Christmas level decorations, but Halloween, and then some of it is like scary as hell. But yeah, on Halloween, most people like sit outside and hand out candy, and some people serve cocktails for like the adults along with the candy. So it's like a whole thing in this neighborhood. I'm too lazy to make cocktails for the adults. So I just hand out candy to the kids, but I sit out there with my laptop and I'm always watching Halloween movies. Every year I watch the first 2 Halloween Town movies because I love them. And also the fact that the real life Marnie and, I mean he was the bad guy in the second movie, but Cal are like engaged in real life. How cute is that? They're so cute. Also, I had such a crush on him in that movie, even though he was a bad guy. Loved him. Also, Kimberly J. Brown, who plays Marnie, was such a like vibe during that time because she was in those movies and she was in Quintuplets, if you guys remember that. I like loved the dcom era. But yeah, I love those movies. I also loved Don't Look Under Your Bed, which is like, I don't do scary movies, and that movie is kind of scary, but I loved that movie. And I don't think they have it on Disney Plus, which is ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. How is it not there? So I'm pretty sure the last few years I've watched it on YouTube, which is very annoying because it's like terrible quality, but love that movie. That one and Halloween Town are like my favorite spooky movies. There are a bunch of other DComs, like DCom Halloween movies were it. There was one that they actually remade, and it's annoying because every time I look it up I only find the new version, but it's called Under Wraps. And it was about like the mummy that came back to life. And there's like a new version, but I don't want to watch the new version, I want to watch the old version. There was Mom's Got a Date with the Vampire, Phantom of the Megaplex is really good. Then there's like Scream Team, which that one they do have because I did watch that last year, and it's okay. It's not my favorite, but it's okay. Those were like the main ones. And then I'm not like a huge fan, but I will watch it every now and then, and that's Nightmare Before Christmas. One I don't mind is Hocus Pocus, which is obviously super popular, but that one I like a little better. Going back to the beginning, I do also like the Casper with Hilary Duff as a little kid. What is that like? It's like Casper and Wendy, right? Like, I like that one. That one was cute. But yeah, I just like love watching the spooky movies during October. But those are like my main go-to Halloween spooky movies. What is your favorite spooky movie? Let me know if there's any that I should be watching, but no horror things. I don't do horror movies.